He spends over $1 million a year trying to reverse his own aging. So why did his body just turn against him? Here's everything we know about what happened to Bryan Johnson, why this diagnosis is such a strange twist for someone this obsessed with health, and what he's now planning to do about it. If you don't know him, Bryan Johnson is the tech entrepreneur behind Project Blueprint, a wildly intense anti-aging protocol that includes dozens of daily supplements, strict measurement of nearly every biomarker in his body, and experimental treatments that have made headlines for years, including plasma transfusions from his own son. He's built an entire brand and a business around the idea that death and aging aren't things we simply have to accept. This week, Johnson revealed something that's landed like a gut punch for a lot of people who follow his work. In a post on social media, he wrote plainly that he has an autoimmune disease and that his stomach is, in his own words, eating itself. The diagnosis is autoimmune gastritis, a condition where the immune system mistakenly attacks the cells lining the stomach. It's considered rare, affecting an estimated 2 to 5% of people, and it's notoriously hard to catch early because it tends to stay silent until real damage has already been done. Here's where the timeline gets interesting. Johnson didn't get this diagnosis out of nowhere. It traces back to his early 20s when he was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid, and put on lifelong hormone replacement therapy. For years that seemed to be managed, but along the way doctors kept noticing something odd. His ferritin levels, which reflect the body's iron stores, kept coming back low even without anemia. Iron supplements weren't fixing it. So doctors pushed further, running blood work, a colonoscopy, and both upper and lower endoscopies with stomach biopsies. That's when everything connected. Blood tests showed his antiparietal cell antibodies were roughly 5 times above the normal upper limit. Biopsies taken from 3 different regions of his stomach confirmed early autoimmune gastritis, with atrophy already present in the acid-producing lining. Johnson has since described his situation as 3 linked problems working together: the iron deficiency, the autoimmune gastritis driving it, and the underlying autoimmune thyroid condition connecting the two. Doctors call this pattern thyrogastric syndrome, and it's a well-documented cycle where poor iron levels and an underactive thyroid feed off each other. Now here's the twist that makes this story land so differently than a normal celebrity health scare. Johnson has spent years positioning himself as proof that a person can outsmart their own biology through sheer discipline and data. And yet, standard medicine essentially has no answer here. Johnson himself pointed out that when autoimmune gastritis is diagnosed today, conventional care basically concedes defeat, focusing only on managing symptoms rather than revering the disease, regardless of how serious the long-term risks are, including elevated cancer risk over time. True to form, though, Johnson isn't just accepting that answer quietly. He's laid out what he's calling a tiered experimental plan to fight back. The first tier, which he's already doing, involves protective and supportive measures like zinc L-carnosine and acid replacement therapy under physician supervision. Beyond that, he's talked about targeting specific immune signaling pathways, exploring lab-grown regulatory immune cells, and even looking toward frontier tools like engineered T-cell therapies and custom AI-designed antibodies aimed at shutting down the rogue immune cells attacking his stomach. What stood out to a lot of people, though, is how Johnson framed the origin of all this. He was upfront that his health problems didn't start with Blueprint. They started decades earlier with a childhood full of sugary cereal, soda, and fast food, followed by a stretch in his 20s marked by chronic stress, weight gain, and what he's described as a deep depression while building a business and raising 3 kids. In his telling, the autoimmune process had likely been quietly developing in the background for years before he ever started his longevity work, and he even suggested that if he hadn't spent the last 5 years taking his health seriously, this diagnosis could have hit him in a far more dangerous state. That's the part that complicates the easy narrative here. It's tempting to look at this and say the extreme biohacking finally caught up with him. But by his own account, and based on the medical timeline, this looks less like something Blueprint caused, and more like something Blueprint may have actually helped him catch before it got worse. Either way, it's a strange, almost ironic moment for someone whose entire public identity is built around refusing to let his body break down. The man who tracks the health of his organs down to the smallest measurable detail just found out one of those organs had been quietly failing him for years. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think this changes how people should view the whole biohacking and longevity movement, or does Bryan Johnson catching this early actually prove his obsessive approach works? Let us know what you think and we'll keep following this story as more updates come in.